Where to begin? What shall we start with? Well, I couldn't help but notice that you have a candle next to you, Brian.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Well, just take us through the exercise, and then
Okay.
we can talk about, like, the implications of
How,
of
why you would do it?
yeah, and like
The different parameters of.
yeah.
Okay. So this is a gazing exercise, or how to, practice gazing with the candle, and it can do a number of things as far as that goes, and we utilize it in a number of different ways. But the exercise itself is quite basic. I mean, you just need usually I use a taper for this. If you use beeswax, it works a little better. I mean, if you don't have that, that's fine. I mean, use whatever you have. It'll still work. For some reason, the correspondences with beeswax seems to actually, have a little bit more, or produce a little more efficacy with the practice itself. But then I would go to like a white candle and then any other color you have. I mean, if that's all you have, use what you have, right? So
Right.
don't let that stop you from doing it, right? Whatever you have. I mean, they would do this, if they didn't have candles, they would use a lamp, right? Like a wick type old oil lamp, and that would smoke and be
flame.
pretty, any flame, really, So, I mean, you could do this with a campfire. It's no problem, So, I mean, not that you need to do a campfire all the time, but for those people that are working like some kind of shamanism or whatever, and they do fire ceremonies or whatever, you could do the same practice with a campfire. That'd be fine. A single flame will be a little bit easier, but once you've done it and you see what you're looking for, right? You can use it with any flame at all. In fact, you could probably do it with almost any light source once you get a feel for it and you have it, down, right? So like, let's say, like when I go to, if I'm going to do this practice and I go to, I have to be someplace, right? And I've got to stay in a hotel. And, obviously they don't like a lot of open flame or candle or whatever. So I'll use you can get those tiny mag lights where you can take the end off and turn it on the other side. And it's just like the tip of the light bulb is just showing, and that can be turned on, right? So you just have a light source. Basically, you can do the same thing. So it's like an instant, battery operated candle, basically. So the other thing was that, so you have the candle set up, it's a taper so that you can see the flame. That's why I don't use a pillar, because a pillar, once the flame gets down, you don't see it and you need the flame. So, but you're in a completely dark room. This is your only source of illumination, right? So, and you're sitting, whatever's comfortable for you. Obviously, you could do it almost any distance, but I would say the average would be, maybe 4 or 5 feet. Could be a little less, could be a little more, depending on, where you are and what you're doing, and how much space you have. Again, don't let optimal space or things keep you from doing the practice. Do it in whatever way you can get it done. So dark room, candle lit, and then I'm sitting, I'm relaxing. Again, back is straight is always the key component for any kind of meditation practice or any exercise that you're doing, because it helps that central channel, flow correctly and with the least amount of impedance. So that means your neck too. So again, just to sort of reiterate with these, tapping on these practices all the time, and quantity goes to quality, right? So as I'm doing it, I'm just sort of like, when I'm relaxing and getting into my position and finding that place, it's, I'm just sort of moving around gently, front and back, sort of rocking back and forth or side to side. And again, like lifting, my chin or pulling it back slightly, trying to align my spine as straight as I can, right? So, and after a while, it just becomes, again, anchored in, or it's a fixed point. So I feel like when I'm in the position that I need to be in, and again, you can sort of think of it like if you had a string going through that territory and you were hanging from it like a skeleton on a rack, right? It would just be that one point. It feels like, oh, it sort of lifts me up a bit. And, I'm basically just hanging on there. It keeps my spine erect and straight and my neck straight, right? So especially with the wind breathing, because the wind breathing, you can really you'll see a huge difference if this is down too much or back too much or whatever. The wind breathing is going to be reduced. The feeling of it, the friction of it's going to be reduced in this territory if your neck isn't straight. So, you know, you can sort of gauge it by that and see where you are. And then once you lock that in, for me, it's when I get into that good position and everything's relaxed, it almost feels as if, you know, there's some kind of joint there that just sort of slides into place and clicks into place. And it's like, okay, I can completely relax my body and stay in that erect position. So that's for me, that's how it works. But it can be anything, you know, so just find a straight position. So I'm looking at the candle, concentrating on the flame, but at the same time, it's just, and what do I mean by that? For gazing, right, it's just in the center of my field of view. Right, so you know, it's just in the center of where I am. That's it. And you know, for gazing, I'm sending my periphery out to the sides. Right, so it's that soft gazing. You know, some people will call it that. I mean, just gazing for me means that I'm moving my peripheral vision out to the farthest place that I can see, and that helps me to relax and not put emphasis on anything in the room more than anything else. It's just like, okay, I know my target is the candle flame, so it's like I keep that in my center view, but you know, I'm not focusing on it, trying to, you know, see the details of the flame itself.
But are you also not trying to focus on the furthest points in your vision?
Right.
You're also not trying to like put too much stress on your focus that way either.
No, it's very relaxed.
It's just like opening your field of vision to encompass as broad an area as you can.
Right. So think of it
straining.
Right. Think of a camera. You know, basically, if you're, you know, trying to, you know, focus on something to get the fine detail of it, it can close the aperture, right, or whatever, and you're looking for like the widest aperture you can get. And still sort of be intact, right? So, so I'm sort of opening my field of view way up, and again, by doing this and relaxing, right? I'm not, you know. Here's the funny part: it's like try and do that back and forth a couple times, right? Like, okay, now I'm going to go to a pinpoint focus, you know. And sometimes I'll use a tack on the wall to do this, or just any little dot or something, pinpoint focus, and then relax and sort of have this feeling like your vision sort of opens up and stretches out. But it's like, this is relaxed, you know, this is focused, you know, it's like, this is relaxed. Try to get a sense of that, you know, do it a few times and see all those little nuances of, you know, what does that feel like? Instead of trying to explain it verbally, you know, some people won't get it from that. So it's like, but if you get a sensation of it, it's going to be much better for you. So, you know, look at both sides. It's sort of like make tense, and then you know what relaxes from there, right? Do the opposite. And so that's going to be, you know, much better for your body memory, basically. And even for your eyes, you'll start to feel like your eyes, you'll notice when your eyes are tense, and then when the eyes actually relax. You know, you feel it sort of let go slowly, you know, and that's a, you know, it's a very good feeling. And
it's a big difference between that and, you know, focusing in the center and then trying to focus on
out to the outside, right? Because that's still, you know, it's still
tense.
Intensity. Yeah, right. So no, it's a more of a relaxed gaze, you know. So I'm gazing, I'm letting this open to the widest peripheral vision that I can get, and that will increase over time as well. Believe it or not, you'll have to experience that. And so, and then, but that's still, the candle's in the center of my field of view. Let's put it that way. And so then I'm just relaxing and doing my gazing. And if you need to, you know, you can close your eyes while you're going through your relaxation. And, you know, it's like maybe it's just a couple minutes of relaxing. It doesn't take a lot to really relax the body. And I always feel like, you know, I'll give myself the command, basically, because I want to tell myself what I'm doing. You know, it's besides saying I'm going to use this exercise to view the aura of, you know, of the candle flame, which reflects my own, and then basically from that point, this is going to help first of all, give me, you know, some kind of diagnosis of my own field, how it's shaped, what's going on with it, and then also I can adjust it over time, and to show me a couple of other things, right, which we're going to go over too, right? So, as I start to relax and go into that, you know, I'm going to tell myself, you know, as I go further into the exercise, it's going to put me into a deeper state of relaxation. So I'm sort of coordinating the two things together. So again, I'm emphasizing here sort of, you know, on the backside of the exercise and saying, you know, the more I relax, the more focus I have, as opposed to, you know, the more tense I am, the more focused I am. It's like, you know, we cultivate that other idea, right? That it's not how much force I have is focus. No, it's like literally how much relax I have produces an exquisite type of focus for us, and that's really important. So we're constantly sort of training that, shifting our paradigms of what we think or what we've been trained with in the past to what we want now to facilitate what we want to achieve, right? So I'm there, again, dark room, candle lit, relaxing. Maybe my eyes are closed when I'm just going through my bodily relax, and I might do just the head down relax or whatever, and then, you know, fourfold breath if I need to sort of help put me in that a bit more alpha state, depending on where I am, right, when I move into the room. And then I'm opening my eyes and very relaxed, right? So it's not like I'm doing this, or, you know, I'm not staring and not blinking either, okay? So it's very, very relaxed. And so I'm just, again, going into that gazing out to the periphery. And as I do, I'll notice after a few minutes, or maybe right away, that there's you know, a circle type of, you know, aura around the candle, which a lot of people see anyway, right? They just blow it off. It's not important. So it can be anywhere from, like, you know, maybe a dollar piece, you know, basically out to, it could be, you know, large. It doesn't really matter. And it could be, you know, multiple layered, but you're going to see that if there are multiple colors there for you, I mean, it could just be white, it could be bluish, you know, but it could have the layers, and of course the colors sort of go with the sequence of the rainbow, right? Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow, blah, 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 right? So, and then, and just, you know, gaze at that and tell yourself, you know, I'm seeing, you know, once you get that view, it's like you're telling yourself, first of all, you know, finish that feedback loop, right? What I'm seeing now is a reflection of my own aura, you know, in the candle. That's basically what it is. You're seeing a reflection of your own aura in the candle. It's reflecting back to you what that is for yourself. So, and then the rest of the exercise goes like this. So maybe you'll see that one of those colors is less of a bandwidth than the others. So let's just say, for sake of argument, right, that let's say you see all the colors, but it's maybe the red color seems thinner than the others, or maybe less prominent than the other ones, right? So when I do that, I'm just holding that, and as I hold it, I'm just saying the name of the color. So I'll say red. Without any other intention, I'm just saying the word red. And when I do, you'll notice most times that band will grow. It'll either be more intense, brighter, or even grow in, volume, basically, right? So, and then at another point, you'll name another color, and you just kind of go through it. It doesn't have to be in order, it's random, right? And you're just looking at, you know, again, seeing it, you know, gazing in that area, and just naming the color and observing what's happening. It's not like you're trying, you know, don't grasp at it. Don't try to change it. What we're trying to do is just show you a couple of different things. First of all, that it is a changeable phenomenon, you know, that it's not just a fixed thing. And that the other thing, the aura of the candle, it's not fixed. Mm-mm. So the other thing is that, because you're not fixed, nothing's fixed, right? vibrating and moving, you know, regardless of how fixed it looks to the outside. We're seeing the facade of that, right? So, but the energy part is still moving. It's vibrating at different rates and different frequencies. So the other thing is how much the words that you speak have an effect on your environment, whether it be your own aura that's being reflected, and we see it even in the representation of the, you know, the candle flame, basically. So that's really important, because when we extrapolate that information, if we can come to that confirmation, we extrapolate that information out, right? It means that, well, if the names of the colors, you know, changes that aspect in myself, what do, you know, other words, what kind of effect do the other words that I use during the course of the day have on my environment or on other people, and definitely on myself, because there's a reflection that comes back to me too. So, you know, if you're using, I mean, how many people do this? You know, it's like, I mean, I've done it in the past. You know, it's like, you know, you do something that, it could even be something easy, like I forgot my keys upstairs when I'm going down to the car, and the first thing out of your mouth is stupid. You know, it's not like a big deal. It's not like you're beating yourself up really, but it's like, and what does that word change within your field? You know, you're entraining to that. You're naming something, and with the intention of naming yourself, you know. And so, you know, and those things get a little bit of they get a little spike of energy, and so that adds up. That's sort of that idea behind the secrets sort of you know, premise that, you know, basically, you know, what you speak or what you think about most of the time is what you know, you engage in, right? If you have like a little, you know, you have a little mishap first thing in the morning, you spill your coffee, you know, and then it's like you're so upset, and then that upsetness attracts more things to make you upset, and that, you know, until your whole day is just a suck day, right? And so, and the same thing with good, right? It's like, oh, you know, they sort of, you know, dramatize that, right? And so, and the same thing with good, right? Oh, something happens bad, but it's just like, you laugh it off, and it's like, okay, you know, it's like, you do that, and, you know, you move on, and it's like, oh, I'll get another cup of coffee or whatever, or it's like, I'll change my shirt, you know, it's no big deal. And so, but you're not giving it that much attention, right? So, and it's, the idea is that a lot of it is the intensity in which you say it too, right? So it's not just the word. I mean, in the exercise, we're just doing the word without any real, it's the reason that we do that with this exercise is because there's no moral judgment to it, right? It's just a color name. So there's no, it's not like you're going, red, you know, it's just like, you know, green. You know, it's like there's no judgment there. It's like, oh, I like red more than I like green. You know, so it's just a name. So when we don't add that level of intensity from the feeling part of it, or giving it a, you know, a value of more than something else, it still has an effect on it. So how much more of an effect? How much more of, let's say, you know, quantity of energy that goes towards something? You know, if it's said vehemently, you know, or whatever, really intensely, you know, it's like, that's the thing. And that's why, I mean, it will change the way over time, not going to be instantaneous, but if you keep those ideas in your head, it will make you more cautious about what you say during the day. Choose your words carefully. You know, it's like, and, you know, if it's something that, like, how many people, I'm trying to think, like, you know, like a common example that everybody, you know, it's like people say, like the kid that's bagging your groceries. I love those examples because, you know, it's like such a good one, because it's like they're just trying to get some extra money, or, you know, help pay for college or whatever it is, or get food money, whatever, you know, while they're in college. So it's like, it's not the best job in the world, but it's a job, right? So, but they're doing their best. They're there. You know, and they just look like they've had a hard night out, and then they've been rid hard and put away wet, you know, so it's like, and so, you know, and, and so they'll be at the end of at the time when you're checking out, right, and they've bagged your groceries, and they do that, just the compulsory, like, you know, have a good day, or, you know, thank you, or whatever, and it's like, and you'll say it back to them, but it's just sort of like this rote response. But if you just it doesn't take a lot. It's not like you got to go there and, it's not like you got to give them a blessing at that point, right? But it's like nobody wants to bag your groceries after that, right?
So give them a back rub.
That's right. But it's like at the same time, it's like I'm pulling up just a certain amount of feeling that I can grasp in a second, and really, when I say the words, I mean them. Like have a good day. It's like I don't even have to change the way I would say it. It's just a matter of I'm adding it's a carrier tone that carries this wave of energy to them, and and it's like, especially if they look like they've been a bit harried or whatever, it's like when I say have a good day, it's like I want them to have a much better day, and and that can really change. And those little things that are anonymous like that, you just have no idea what kind of reciprocation comes back from those things. It's like you're adding energy. You give those things out the way you want to receive them, right? So people are constantly praying for this and praying for that and hoping they get this and hoping they get that, but it's like, well, how are you giving that out? If you're giving in sort of a in a way that isn't heartfelt, it's like, you're probably going to get in that way. You get the way you give. Mm-hmm. And so if you're constantly like, think about it. If you're in a place where you're actually, that's your job is to make somebody feel better or whatever, in my case, and but how much more will you get from doing it anonymously to people that you don't know at all, and you're just wishing them well, really wishing them well, and it's like you're giving the way you want to receive. It's not like you have this, it's not like I'm calling up Dustin on the phone or calling up, Jesus Christ on the phone and saying, hey, Jesus, how's it going? It's like, hey, I could use this. It's like, no. But it's like, I'm giving the way that I want to receive. Like, there's not that, let's say, that personal knowledge the way we would think of, like I have a personal relationship with you, right? So it's not like I have a personal one-on-one, tactile relationship with any of these things, right? These entities, whatever you want to call them. So, but if I want to receive something from them, if I want to engage them in a way that's going to be meaningful, and I want to get something, some energetic input from that, or some boost of help in whatever way, why wouldn't I give in the same way that I expect to receive that? Picking me out of 7 billion people to throw that out there to, it's like, oh, well, like speaks to like, right? So if I'm constantly, if I'm continually, putting those little, whatever you want to call it, blessings, goodwill, good thoughts toward somebody, then, I'm going to be, I'm going to receive things in that manner as well. And I think that's the whole point, behind that. It's not just merely, goodwill and putting it out there, but it's like I'm emulating how I want to receive things. I'm emulating those entities that I feel are, have more harmony than I do at this moment in time, maybe even in this lifetime, right? So it's like, but if I emulate them, I become more like them, much like, assuming the God form, right? It's just on a, on a lower, not lower scale, just on a more, smaller level, basically. So, but all these little things put together create momentum, right? They create a huge momentum. People underestimate how much that actually, promotes over time, and you accumulate that over time. So now I've lost my track. Am I going in the right direction for have I finished that? So basically,
no.
Yeah. So basically, you're looking at that, you're naming them colors, whatever color name that you choose, and watching to see what the response is. Maybe you'll name one and it doesn't have a response at all. That might tell you something later on. That'd be one of those anomalies that I write in my journal afterwards, like, oh, I did every one and they all grew except yellow. Okay, so what's going on there? It's like, maybe you won't know right then, but maybe if it's consistent, It could just be an anomaly where that day that amount or that frequency of energy was low in you, and you couldn't boost it up just by naming it. But as we go on, we'll find other ways, toning and different things that will facilitate that sort of, being able to, bring that more in line with the others, right? If it's continual. So, so once that's done and you've done it for a little bit of time, whatever feels right to you, then you just, again, you go back and, and again, I'm just always touching on these things, you want to connect that feedback loop, like, wow, that was a pretty cool exercise, and the reason I was able to do that was because of the practices that I've been doing. So you always want to connect that back and let your subconscious know, yeah, I'm moving in the right direction, more like that. That was good. It's like, oh, there was this little anomaly, but I'm writing it down, not judging it, just like, oh, I wonder what that was. Ask yourself the question, see what kind of answer you might get, and then move on. So, but again, that's the technique, with the candle as far as that goes. Very basic. I mean, we do a lot of candle work, but this one specifically, goes with the gazing, at least as a preliminary, and there are other ways to sort of make it stronger and change the aspect of it a little bit so that it hits us in a different angle too.
Can you talk a little bit about how the candle's aura is a reflection of your own?
As much as I can. I mean, I don't actually know the mechanism of it, but for some reason, it does seem to be the case that, the candle itself, it's almost like we've used it as when I learned this, we used it as a diagnostic tool in one way, so that you could do it first thing in the morning and see how your field looked that day. Is there something that's lower than the rest? Does it seem pretty equal? It doesn't always have to be equal either. It's not like, oh, this is always lower than everything else for me. Or like that may be the configuration that you have at this point. It's like it will change over time. Some of the other things would be, as you get more proficient at seeing, you may see gaps or other things, in the aura itself of the candle. So if it was just an inanimate sort of candle object, that wouldn't happen, right? So when we see differences like that, we know that it's actually reflecting our own, our own field, basically. So, or if it's, sometimes it'll be way off center, or it'll have a different shape than this circular shape. Those all reflect different aspects of our own field, and as we go through the course, and maybe more toward the end, we'll go over a little bit of diagnostics with that and see what that can be attributed to and what we would do to correct that, because it is a way that we can kind of boost that up. It gives us it's a diagnostic. We know where things are maybe too high or too low, or maybe just unbalanced in some way, and it's like, okay, if that's that, then how do I correct that? What do I do to kind of bring myself back on track again and make it more balanced? Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's like things that are, like, let's say it's, normally it would be a circle around it, or relatively a circle, but maybe there's a whole segment that's just, it's a circle, and then there's a blank spot, and then it connects down here again, but there's an empty spot here, or some little fragments, or certain areas are not cohesive, so that would be indicators for us about certain things. So then once we know, we can correct it. We may not sense it, we may not feel it in ourselves, we just kind of go through our day, but you might track it to something that is maybe a consistent problem with you. Like, let's say you had the opportunity on the weekend. Let's say it happens all week, but of course you're at work, and you can't do this while you're at work for whatever reason, unless you work alone. You always have a drop in energy around, like, 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you were to do this exercise during that time, you might actually get a visual cue of something that's changed in that, in that the aura, that reflection of your aura, that's consistent day after day. So you might check it on a Saturday and a Sunday if it's happening on those days as well, right? Is it just a drop in a certain level of energy at that time for some reason, specific reason? You might be able to, ferret that out and figure it out. And when you correct it, again, using your own metrics of, how do I feel at between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon? As I correct things, am I getting through that time period without that drop in energy? Or am I making it worse? With whatever I do. So you're sort of gauging it and trying to figure it out, and there are ways to systematically go through that and correct it.
I'm getting this like sense of how you think about like yourself and your day in a way, because I think there, if you're kind of in the rhythm or the habit of like being in like this place where it's like everything's just like the mundane, or I'm just in my habits of my life or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, I just get tired at that time, oh yeah, I'm just low energy, oh yeah, I'm just this, or things are just that way or whatever. And it's like I'm kind of just getting this clear sense that you're always looking at things and kind of like trying to tease them apart, break them down, understand the parts. And it's like, oh well, why that? Because in an optimal state, I could just have fantastic energy all day long from beginning to end, or feel great, or have a wonderful day, or whatever it is.
Right.
It's really like, instead of looking at each little part of your day or your experience and kind of having that like investigative attitude toward it, like, oh, just if I understand it a little better, I could probably tweak it up with this little correction or this, instead of feeling like it's an overwhelming problem or just this thing that's just like, that's just how I am now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it, I look at the energetic aspects the same way I would look at dietary aspects or anything else. It's sort of like, oh, I don't, if I'm not feeling well after I eat a certain thing, is it just me, or is it like I don't, that has an effect on me in a negative way? I mean, that sounds like a simple, idea, but, you can do the same thing with the rest of your day as well, right? With the energy that you're, how you're feeling through the day. Am I a morning person or not a morning person? Am I a night owl? I'm not a night owl, so, and are there parts of the day that are consistent that drop off in energy, or maybe I spike in energy, so, everybody's going to be a little bit different. I think, again, we have a real tendency to sort of broad brushstroke these things and say, okay, in general, maybe it's true, in general, most people get, their high efficiency time is in the morning, but there are people that, no, their high efficiency time is in the afternoon, right? So, are they just freaks, or are they, is it just, no, it's like finding your balance and working that out, right? So, can I make the morning more like my afternoon if I'm an afternoon person? Sure, you can do that, but where do you start? You have to know where you are first. We need to know where we're starting from, and then when we analyze that, then we're kind of moving it, and saying, okay, if I adjust this a little bit, how does that affect me, if at all? And because there are plenty of things that you'll do that you won't notice any effect, right? Or at least not immediately. And so I give it a little time too. It's like, oh, if I do this several days in a row or a week, does it have any real effect? And if not, I switch it up and do something else. And, it's like I'm constantly tweaking it. And, again, it's that joyful effort, right? It's
And
sort of
never-
a playful attitude. I'm not really judging myself, or I'm just
Right.
trying to optimize myself on a regular basis. And it's not like I'm in a super critical analytical mode all the time. I mean, you know me, I'm not, I mean, I have an analytical mind, but I don't, I'm not super critical of myself for really much of anything, and so it's not like I'm going around thinking about where are the problems all day long, because if you think that all day long, you're going to find multitudes of problems, because you're going to get multitudes of problems to fill your mind with, right? So it's more like, is this a bother or is it not? If it's just a thing and it doesn't matter either way, am I going to waste energy on it? Only if I think it has some advantage to me later. So then it's like, okay, now I'm going to work on this, because everything else seems to be pretty much in control. I've got time, You know, what's my priority list? You know, what's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck? You know, because I have a finite amount of energy that I can pour into any exercises through the day, right? So I want to do the things that are going to have the most impact in my world on a regular basis, you know, consistently from day to day. And then the little nuances, you tweak it as you go, right? And the more you find out about it and the more that you do and then have that feedback, the better and better you get. You get more efficient at it, right? It's like, oh, you correct things on the fly because you know what's going on and you tweak it, right? And it makes it a lot easier too to make choices. Like people have hard times making the right choices, right? So it's like, you know, oh, you know, do I want the dark chocolate bar or do I want the green smoothie? And it's like, I'll go for the chocolate bar. You know, it's like, but maybe the green is what you need at that time, you know? So, you know, it's easier when you can make that direct correlation that having that will actually produce the effect you're looking for. You know, the chocolate bar will produce an effect, but, you know, or a piece of dark chocolate will, you know, produce an effect, but it may not be the effect that you're looking for at that time. So it doesn't mean it has no effect. It just means it's not the effect you're looking for, right? Where the greens are. And so, you know, you make your choice appropriate to what you're doing. You know, it's not always the same. I think that's the thing, right? You got to be flexible and adaptable to your situation. If I need to calm down, you know, and have sort of just a well-being feeling, then the piece of dark chocolate is probably going to be the best thing. I know, at least for me, the greens make me hyper, you know, so it's like, you know, the chocolate just sort of gives me that nice serotonin rush, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm in the recovery mode now. This is good. So that's nice. It's nice for conversation or, you know, dark chocolate, a glass of wine, good to go. Perfect evening. So, but yeah, so for the candle exercise, you know, I think that's about, did I cover everything?
I think so, yeah. I mean, in terms
quite
of
a
like,
bit, actually.
Yeah, it is.
When
It
you
is
think
a
about
lot.
it. I mean, the exercise again is very simple.
It's simple, but there's those nuances of like, what's my goal? Why am I doing this? How does it work? Why does it work that way? And you know, what am I getting from this? And how can I enhance it? And it sounds like the first stage of it is actually just being able to bring the aura of the flame into view,
right? And
then being able to see the rainbow spectrum of colors throughout that aura, and then speaking each one of the colors aloud to see how that affects what you're seeing.
Try to be as neutral as you can. Now that I've already, you know, sort of given you what we're supposed to see, you know, it's like it's going to be hard to, you can't just drop it out of your head, but but the idea is be as neutral as you can. Just see what effect, if any, there is on that, you know. And if you feel like, oh, if I intend that to do, and intending is not, it's not a grasping, right? Like I have to change it. You know, that's grasping for the effect. You know, it's like it's like trying to grab smoke. The more you do it, the worse it is, right? It just parts away from your hands. So, you know, it's more like, you know, you're settled into it. You know, like, oh, you know, when I say the word green, you know, I want the green to expand or get brighter or be more intense in some way, or, you know, like that's my goal. That's what I want to do. Can I do that? You know, and it's like you do it and see, you know, and if that happens, it's great, you know, give it a minute, you know, don't be like, oh, it didn't work. It's not going to be, a lot of times it won't be instantaneous when you say it, but it will happen,
right?
You know, and if you practice it, it will happen quicker and quicker,
right?
And so, yeah, and you know, again, the more you relax, the better it's going to be. I think sometimes too, like doing this gazing technique in a dark room helps to relax the eyes a bit too. So if you're one of these people that maybe is having that sense that, you know, you're straining a bit when you're gazing, then, you know, you can only relax your eyes so much, and, you know, but working in a dark room, there's less for you to be focused on, so it sort of makes it a little bit easier to do the gazing, where you just have a single something in the middle of the field of view, and the rest of it's sort of negated a bit by the darkness. So it'll help to relax your eyes, and you'll get more acclimated to it in that way, and there'll be less stress on your eyes when you're doing that.
Right. The other thing that we talked about is usually when you do this practice, you like to have a black background behind the candle, or dark, or non-reflective, or whatever.
Yeah, I feel it's a little better because sometimes having something white or just a white wall behind it, the reflections off the wall can be distracting as well. You'll see the flicker and all of that stuff. So, and it can, yeah, it can be a little distracting. So in the end, it won't matter what you have in front of you or not, you know. So
Right.
If I'm going to use a white wall like that, I probably pull the candle farther away from the wall because it'll have more distance. You know, it's not like there's a reflective background right on it. Like you ever see those old lamps they used to use in the caves for like mining, right? It was like a candle with a mirror on the back side of it, so it would reflect light forward more than just the, you know, ambient glow, right? And so I feel like, you know, putting it too close to the wall almost makes that condition where it's shining back at you. And so pulling it a little farther away, it gives it more of that, you know, nice, just sort of ambient glow in the room. And that's a little bit easier to work with. Otherwise, a black background, like just get a black, you know, curtain at Walmart, you know, and just tack it on the wall for now and where you're working, and use it when you do that. That way it'll cut down any reflection, and that'll be a little bit easier too.
What if somebody's having a hard time just seeing the sphere of light around the candle?
Relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the relax, you know, go through the relax a little bit more. You know, it
Go
doesn't
through
mean,
like a body relaxation exercise.
or,
in
you
your
know, you
mind?
can, like, if you're having a hard time, before you get to that frustrated place, just close your eyes and relax again. You know, just check in with yourself. Am I feeling tense in any area? Most times you will. If you really focus on that, you'll see, oh, yeah, I'm like tense in the gut, anticipation, or, you know, like my legs are tense or my neck is tense. You know, it's like just run through the relaxation again. Close your eyes. Don't worry about it. You know, it's like let it go. Let the results go as well as the phenomena go. You know, it's like it's okay. It's just you want to be really as neutral as you can. You know,
It's
like,
hard to do that sometimes.
it's very hard to do that. You know, it's like we're all anticipating some, you know, whiz-bang kind of, you know, phenomena to happen for us. You know, it's
Or
like,
any. Yeah.
yeah. And so when it doesn't, it's sort of like you feel like you know, you're flat on that one. And it's like, no, just, you know, close your eyes, relax, let it go. And then, you know, you start over again. And you can do that several times. It doesn't mean, you know, you have to do, you know, oh, I've already started it, I can't go back and relax again. No, relax as many times as you want. You know, if in 15 minutes you try, you know, 4 minutes of relaxation and a minute of gazing, and 4 minutes of relaxation, a minute of gazing, yeah, you do that, you know, several times, you know, in the course of, that's fine. That's fine. You know, the idea is to, you know, associate success with relaxation, just like focus with relaxation. We want to put those two together, not force with focus, right? So that's the idea. You're not forcing the outcome. You know, you relax and you know, you just hard to come up with the proper words of, you know, how you it's almost like instead of forcing what you're actually seeing, it's almost like I'm trying to feel the light, you know, with my eyes. As you know, that would be a much more, you know, a softer approach than you know, like I'm burrowing into that, you know, like I'm forcing it to appear to me. It's like no, it's like I'm holding that idea, and it's like I'm trying to any indication of light or color that I'm seeing. It's like the ease with which I try to enhance that is by almost like I'm feeling the light with my eyes rather than trying to see it more sharply. If that makes some kind of sense, that's about as close as I can get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely works for me.
It's very subtle.
Because that's big for me. So
Yeah.
but when saying it that way sounds very helpful.
Yeah.
So
that's I think more like it, because that's not grasping. That's just being present for it, really, but also in a way anticipating what's to come. You know, it's like I want it to happen. It's not like I'm so neutral that it doesn't matter if I do it or not. I don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
You know, I'm anticipating it happening. I'm expecting it to happen, but I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to force it. I'm being patient, Kira, to, you know, allow it to come to me. Allow it to present itself in the way that it's going to be best for my conditioning, you know, and again, always adding momentum to my end result, not just the practice at present, right? It's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
You've got to remember that too. Put it in the context of the bigger picture, not just in this one little segment. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a stepping stone. It's a place to go. I love these practices. They're phenomenal. You know, there's so much. Again, these simple exercises, but it will enhance your life in a way. It's not just about, you know, seeing the colors. There's something in the practice itself of doing the practice, the responsibility that you take on from doing the practice and going through it and doing it, and you know, regardless of the results that you get, if you're not getting the results that you want, asking or, you know, changing it up a little bit so that you're getting different results and seeing how that can affect you. But it gives you some kind of model for life as well, right? If you're doing something, even though everybody says that's the way it should be done, but you're not getting the results, what's wrong with changing it up, making it more your own and saying, okay, you know, how else can I get these results? You know, if this normal model isn't working, you know, what can I do? What little changes can I make? I don't want to jump in the deep end, both feet, you know, because maybe I'm not that good a swimmer, right? I don't know how deep it is. So, but I'll change things a little bit and see if I can produce more of the result that I'm looking for. And I think that, you know, these exercises sort of have that secondary gain of that. You know, it's like going through life and applying, because it becomes, those neural pathways are opening up and getting stronger, right? So it's not going to be that difficult to apply that in your daily life in other areas too. Are you expecting, you know, 10,000% gain with every little word that you say, or are you, you know, or is it like you're just applying it and, you know, adapting yourself and applying it and adapting yourself and just anticipating the best and allowing it to present itself when it does, you know, and going after that and changing it if it's not coming as quickly as you want, and, you know, doing it that way and adjusting yourself constantly. Yeah. I want to change my world, I adjust myself. That's all.
Yeah, hard to, I mean, it definitely is a, you know, step-by-step transition to fully adopting that mentality.
Right.
I mean, for good reason, but
yeah.
But it sounds like this is a great exercise to just kind of see that effect. Yeah.
Right. And the effect that your words have on the world and yourself.
Right. Cool. Thanks, man.
Hey, it's great.
All right.